Welcome to another episode of our Elephant Project, where my guest today is Dr. Cecilia Lopez. Thank you.
Hello.
Yay. Thank you for saying yes to being a guest on our project and sharing what resilience is from your perspective. You are my 10th guest, and each guest brings so far all are different and individual perspectives. So I'm really curious and excited for our conversation because you are bringing also your professional background and experience into our discovery. And so before we start, I wanted to officially introduce you and properly. So our audience, whoever doesn't know you, can have an idea about your background and where you're coming from. So Dr. Cecilia Lopez is a licensed marriage and family therapist with the state of California. She specializes in anxiety, anger, and stress management and utilizes cognitive behavior therapy, mindfulness, and that's how we actually met through one of your mindfulness events, and other eclectic techniques in her practice. And she also hosts a podcast. Would you like to share the name of the podcast?
Oh, yes. It's Mindful Living with me, Dr. Cecilia Lopez. So yes, go check that out if you want to, which you will be on my podcast. This episode will be there too.
Yay. So maybe you can listen to us or watch us.
Maybe I'll have you on for a totally different topic at some point.
Yay. I'm open. And so on your podcast, you share tools, tips, and insights around mental health challenges. So important right now. Always, but especially right now, I feel the culture of therapy. Oh, I could have another topic and conversation just around this. Maybe I'll invite you for another one. And mindfulness practices and other avenues of healthy living. Thank you. Anything else that you would like to add?
Nope. I think that summarizes my professional part of me. I'm like, I don't know if you guys need to know about my favorite foods and stuff, but that's professional side.
We might discover it. There's a resilience connected to your favorite foods. So let's dive in. Alrighty. So the first question I usually ask is, what does resilience mean to you personally?
Resilience. So funny thing, I remember being in middle school and what that was like a vocabulary word that we had. So I'm like remembering like how my teacher in middle school, like resilience
I love it.
To bounce back like a rubber band. And I'm just like, that's what I'm all bounce back like a rubber band.
Love it.
So in a more serious tone, being able to experience adversity, experience challenges, struggle, and still making that decision or using your strengths, your skills, your capabilities, competencies, resources to try to move through that challenge. So not to try to avoid it or get around it or pretend it's not there. It's fully radically accepting it and still making that effort to move through it. I also, the therapist side of me is also being kind to yourself in that process too. There's no real timeline or duration of how long you can feel stuck in an adversity. If I can quote that word stuck, it's just recognizing you're there and knowing that you want to move through it. And then when you're ready, taking those steps to use your strengths to move through.
I love it. I have so many questions, but I will wait with them till maybe if you would like to share, if you're open to sharing a personal story of where you bounced back like the rubber band or any other definition. And by the way, I have to say my mind went on a tangent a little bit because I imagined the rubber band and I felt almost the pain from the past when something snapped back.
Oh no.
So I wonder if that the bouncing back could be painful, if we could go there in some other conversation. But what would be your story?
Before I start, can you hear my cats playing in the kitchen?
No.
Okay, good. You know, for the listeners, I got some kittens. They're making a ruckus in the kitchen and I just don't have a door. So
It's all good. They're having fun.
For everybody listening. So an example for myself personally of resiliency, and it's funny because I was actually just talking about this like an hour ago with my friend, is when I was in my doctoral program. I was finishing up all of my coursework, because after you do all your coursework, then you have to do your dissertation, and dissertation can be anywhere from 1 year to a year and a half, 2 years, all the way up to like 7 years. So I had the bright idea of trying to get my doctorate fast and getting through the dissertation fast. And so I'm getting geared up to do that. And then all of a sudden I experienced an accident and I have a head injury, very severe concussion.
Oh, wow.
And my whole world gets thrown for a loop. At that point, I was working at a mental health agency, and I was working with clients at that point. And I was also in school, and I was doing other internships. I was very busy.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I couldn't walk for 6 weeks without passing out. I had to go on disability at school, which, thank goodness for disability programs in colleges, right? So I got a little longer test times and things like that. But it makes things hard. Concentration, your ability to retain information, also your mood fluctuation. Having a severe concussion can do a lot of things to our cognitive functioning and our mood. And so having that experience right when I'm like gearing up to finish out this time in my life, I'm like, this, can I say sucks?
Yeah.
I'm like, this sucks.
I can think of other words.
Yeah. And then, not to mention, I was then going through a breakup. The concussion caused a breakup. The partner I had at the time was just like, I cannot handle you. Understandably so. I mean, as I reflect on it, I'm like, yeah, I probably wouldn't be able to handle me either. So that was my big challenge, right? And so I'm like, okay, I have to, or I shouldn't say have to, I had to make a decision, because I could have just dropped out of school. I could have taken a couple of years off. People do that all the time for various reasons. It's not a bad thing to take time off from school. So that was kind of like the decision. I'm like, do I take time off? Do I try to keep going? So of course, I don't know if anybody can figure out my personality already. I'm like, I'm going to keep going. We're going to do this. but I had a goldfish memory. And also I would go from like 0 to 100 with anger, and then start laughing, and then start crying, like, because your brain is healing. Right. So I had to utilize some of my strengths, which included resources, because I was like, well, I know a bunch of therapists who know programs. So I was like, let's learn how to manage our mood. Let's start learning meditation. Let's start learning mood management for myself, right? Let's figure out a different way to learn, because I also used to be able to just kind of like sit, read something a few times, and then like get it. And now I'm like, I read the same sentence, like, exaggerating 100 times, right? But more like 10, 20 times. And then I'm like, I don't remember. Walk into a room, ask somebody a question, they tell me information, walk out. I'm like, oh my God, what did they just say? Right. And so, got to do a dissertation, a whole study.
Wow.
I had to do it like, I did a qualitative study and with people, and then I have to do the write-up. So I'm like, I have to figure out how to do this. So using tools like recorders and asking people permission, because it's like a felony to like just record people without their permission, right? So like asking people for permission, explaining why I need to record something, and taking notes, and basically my learning style and even little pieces of my personality changed a bit. I found myself being a lot more patient, because I had to be patient with myself moving through this situation. And so one, deciding that I'm going to not drop out and stay. And then two, being very kind with myself, very, very kind, right? I mean, I shouldn't say you have to. I'm trying to not say that so much, but the alternative is what? Being, impatient with yourself, or
yeah. Can I pause you for a moment?
Yeah, totally.
So one of the things would help you decide or choose which path is better for me when you were facing the decision at the time, when something happened unexpected that totally changed your trajectory. You wanted to go fast,
Right.
and now something got a block right in front of you and it hurt.
I think because I was so determined to heal and I knew that I needed to use my mind. I was like, if I quit, I'm going to do what? Sit at home and just like do what? Because even I had a decision to go on disability at work. And I'm like, what would I do with my time? And I'm like, I need to use my mind to heal. So it was kind of strategic to keep my mind exercised and also to really push myself to get better. And also, this is more of like a motivation strategy. I gave myself a deadline.
Oh.
I told myself before the head injury even happened that I wanted to get my doctorate before I turned 30. And so I was like, if I made it by 4 months, like 4 months before my 30th birthday. So I'm just like, I'm gonna, looking at my imaginary watch, I'm like, I'm on a timeline here. Like, let's go, let's do this. Now, if that happened to me now, I probably would have a different course, but my little young self was very motivated.
Very driven. Has it always been your characteristic and strength? Kind of be.
Yeah, I swear, just an hour ago, my friend was like, Cecilia, I need to slow down. How many podcast episodes are you on today?
She probably wanted more of you. And I'm like, no, I need to have an interview with Lucie.
No, but it's like, it's, I want to say fun at times, right? But I kind of went into my little warrior mode. And I honestly remember laying in grass because I would read something and not remember. And it was so scary. Yeah. It was scary. It wasn't even just like frustrating. Like I was scared. I was like, what, all the what ifs, like, what if my mind doesn't work well anymore? What if my brain doesn't work well anymore? And thank goodness, like brains are very resilient. And a lot of people do heal from concussions. And so I was like, so happy that I started to get better. It took about 6 months, but then I got better. And then, now I have new ways of learning things and things like that. But I remember laying on the grass and there was a bee in front of me and I was like, is this my life now? I'm like, just like looking at this bumblebee, like walking on the grass. And I'm like, not even phased that it's like so close to my face. And I'm just like, that was when I remember making the decision. I'm like, I need to do something.
So
and
go ahead.
Oh no, I went to my neurologist and I was like, clear me. And she was like, you're cleared, go do stuff. And I'm like, yeah, whatever.
So what I see, if I see it correctly, so there's your natural strength. It's almost with passion for life, doing things and having fun with it. Sounds like you have lots of energy and you wanted to give it and do things and create things, learn things, progress. And then you had to stop. And when you were lying in the grass, when you've mentioned, is that my life now? What was was it fear inside? What was the emotion at that moment?
I think I remember feeling very sad because I had this idea of what I wanted to do, which was like walk the stage in my cap and gown by this time. And then after that, I had to study for my marriage and family therapy license. And I also wanted to get that license too, so that I can start seeing clients as a licensed professional. And so that's another thing that I think is key when it comes to resilience is having the idea at the forefront of what you want your life to look like. Right. Mm-hmm. And so that you can keep that as your North Star, if you will, of keeping you motivated to continue using your strengths. And everybody's strengths are different. And it would have been 100% acceptable if I chose to rest. Right. Because that would have just been my intuition telling me to rest. But my intuition was telling me to keep going. Yeah. Right. And so I felt sad because I was not doing what my intuition was telling me to do. Right. Like I felt like the energy pulling me to like, go buy a recorder, go buy a tape recorder so you can start recording things.
Yeah. So I'm also hearing you had the moment of just stillness almost in the grass.
Yeah.
And then you could hear, how would you describe your intuition? How does it feel?
It feels like a magnet. Um, so I think I can say that everybody's intuition might be very unique to them, how they recognize it. But for me personally, it feels like a magnet, like in my chest. And it just kind of like pulls me forward, to the left, to the right, or like full stop, right? And so when I think of something that I want to do, and then I feel like this excitement or this like magnet pulling me like towards that idea, quote, towards that idea, I'm like, yeah. Versus if I think of something and then it's like the opposite, like, ugh, no, right? And that's kind of just how I navigate around.
Beautiful. So it sounds like in that particular moment that of stillness, you could really connect to the intuition.
Yeah.
So, okay, if I go this way, this doesn't feel right. This feels sad. So I better do something and go to the store and buy the recorder.
Yeah. And this is also how I handle challenges now, right? I'm studying for a second license, and it's stressful, and it's not a huge hurdle or anything, but it's overwhelming. And so when I struggle to kind of figure out, like, how am I going to study for this? How am I going to make time for this? How am I going to manage my other projects and things like that? I will sit in stillness for a little while. I'll just go sit in my backyard and just do nothing. And I'll, dare I say, meditate.
Do something.
Yeah. And just give myself time to just be still. And then eventually you get that clarity, clarity meaning clear. I just kind of like the dust settles. My mind doesn't go away, my thoughts don't go away or anything like that. It's not like that type of clear, but you have space to kind of figure things out without all the clutter.
Oh, so it's like more organized, or you can see from the mess.
Yeah. Or just like, just imagining dust or confetti like everywhere, and kind of falling down
as you're still. Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
So not necessarily organized, but just like on the floor.
Yeah, so you can see it better.
Yeah, just like, everybody get down. All the thoughts.
You can walk over it too if you want to.
Right.
Get somewhere else. Very good. So it sounds like in your resiliency toolkit, in this story, it was a process of when something happened, being still, and then listening or feeling your intuition that guided you towards the path, which path you want to take. And you also had a very specific vision of where you want to get.
Yes, I think having the vision is helpful, but it's not required, because I have talked with people before where they're like, I don't know what I want to do, and I don't know what my goals are or my purpose or what I'm even interested in. And so what I say to that is how do you want to feel? Right? How do you want to, if you don't know like the actual behavioral things you want to do or the tangible things you want to like achieve or get, then how do you want to feel? Right? Do you want to feel more productive? Do you want to feel more energized? Do you want to feel healthier? Do you want to just feel more at peace, more grounded? And then taking those steps to try to cultivate those feelings.
So it sounds like once we have a goal, be it a particular specific, I want to get licensed with this, or it could be a feeling goal. If somebody doesn't know what they're going to do, or they already have outlined, but still something is missing, to add a feeling goal. How do you want to feel?
Yeah. And I do that with my clients too, when they don't really know what they want to achieve. I'm just like, well, how do you want to feel? That's easier sometimes.
And then just sit in stillness or be and pause and hear the intuition. Would it be?
That's one way. So I like to think of all of these things as more or less a toolbox. So it's like if you experience adversity, you don't have to do certain things in a certain order or anything like that. Just grab one tool and just use that and do what feels good in the moment, or do what feels right in the moment. Sometimes sitting in stillness is not going to work for people for a while, and using a different tool, which could be accessing their resources or their natural support system to help them process and make sense of what's going on in their mind or their body, is what is more appropriate for them at that moment, right? So talking to their friends or their parents or whoever, right? And that might be what they do instead.
Yes. So what I'm hearing for everybody is different. Is there a moment or experience where you actually it didn't work to sit in stillness or meditate? You mentioned that before you didn't meditate as much
I
before
did
the
not really
accident.
meditate that much then. It was mostly like having nothing to do and just laying down. And then I remember just everything went really quiet. And I'm like, what's this? This is weird. And then, of course, meditation followed because I figured out, I'm like, oh, is that what meditating is? That's great. There's so many different types of meditation. But anyway, I digress. What was your question?
It's all good. It's all good. I have another question. What would be the connection, if there's any connection between meditation and resilience?
I think with meditating, now I'm specifically talking about mindful meditation because again, there's different types of meditation and I'm more, I just understand mindful meditation more. I think that sitting in stillness, being able to notice and be the observer of your mind and your body and really connecting to breath and being able to ride waves of discomfort can be very helpful because when you are working through adversity, working through a challenge, it can be extremely uncomfortable, right? Feeling frustrated that I couldn't at the time remember something, right? And even when I had little slip ups of talking negatively to myself or applying for certain things or trying to get a certain amount of participants for my study and then it not working the way that I want, right? So different challenges will happen as you're moving through the big challenge, right? Little micro challenges. Yep. And so having that capability of noticing yourself experiencing this discomfort, this negative emotion, or noticing this uncomfortable thought process and being able to observe them rather than interact with them and react to them. So it's like being able to have this space where you notice your mind, notice your body and breathe and ride waves in real time is a very, really interesting and beneficial ability. Mm-hmm. Or way of being.
So now when can it be nurtured, developed, if it's ability?
Can it be like self-nurturing?
Mm-hmm. Or let's say when somebody gets stuck in the emotion, it sounded creating the space. So kind of we stop identifying ourselves with the emotion. Would that be connected to that? Or is that we can observe ourselves, kind of get a higher perspective on ourselves, what's happening? How would you describe the space?
I like to say it very simply that you are simply noticing. That's it. You're just noticing. So it's not necessarily trying to find a different perspective, because in my perspective about that's more thought process. That's more like mindset, which is great too. So that kind of segues over to the CBT side of things, but I'll get to that in a second. So it's more, I like to just think about it as noticing yourself being non-judgmentally, because no judgment is one of the ideas of mindful philosophy, right? Is no judgment.
You've mentioned that you learned to be kind to yourself, if I heard it correctly. What supported you or helped you to switch to being kind, or have you always been kind to yourself?
At the time I was in therapy, I got a therapist when I just started my master's program, because they make us do our own unpacking when you're learning to be a therapist. And I was like, I think I need a professional before I'm a professional.
I work with my coaches too.
Yeah.
Process.
She that therapist I had, she was amazing. And she modeled being kind to self and how to reframe your thoughts to cultivate more self-compassion, so that it's much harder to be resilient if we're talking negatively to ourselves, or if we're thinking very negatively and pessimistically and cynically, right? So that's, I'm going to segue over to cognitive behavioral therapy. I had to do a mindset shift. And this is before I became like a seasoned therapist, when I was still just like, I didn't really know much yet. And so I eventually talked about it enough with my friends who I have are great. I've had the same little group of friends for many, many years. And so just hearing other people model it. So that's, again, using one of your strengths. A strength is your natural support system and your resources, right? So letting other people help you change your mindset.
Oh. So if anybody is struggling right now with negative self-talk, and if they've tried change it on their own, it's to really allow themselves to reach out for support.
Yes. And I could give a tip too. So I didn't know this back then, but now different things that a person can do if they're experiencing negative self-talk or really feeling stuck in one narrative is to ask yourself certain questions, such as, first of all, what exactly am I thinking? And it's helpful to actually write it out. Like, what's the problem here? Like, what am I worrying about that's making doing this task or doing this activity or whatever it is harder? And if that thought is based on no evidence, so asking yourself, do I have evidence or proof that this way I'm looking at it is the absolute 100% only way I can look at the situation? Or is there a possibility that I could look at the situation from a different angle, right? And looking for evidence against your thoughts is a skill, and not everybody can do it right away. Sometimes people need to practice it a few times or more than a few times, right? And seeing if you can shift your perspective. I like to grab onto themes like compassion, gratitude, acceptance, right? And using those ways of thinking to kind of help move through a situation. An easier thing that I like to do is to tell myself, if I don't know enough information about something, I'm not going to try to guess. I have a little saying that I just say, guess less, guess less. I don't know how something's going to go. I don't know if I'm going to succeed. I don't know if this person's going to like me, if I'm going to get this job, if I'm going to get this grant. I'm like, I don't know anything. And I just kind of adopt this wait and see attitude. Like, we'll just go find out. Just go wait and see.
Just being open, sounds like.
Right.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is actually very helpful with resiliency, is like, well, to bring your attention back to the present moment, and knowing, just being aware that the mind goes to the past, or aware if the mind goes to the future, and simply recognizing that that is happening. And just by recognizing that that is happening, you are now present again, right? Because you're aware that the mind has wandered. And so bringing your attention back to breath, and then still having your North Star, what do I want to do? And still continuing to move forward while noticing if your mind wanders to the future or to the past.
Do you have any specific breath technique that you use that is your favorite?
Well, it depends. Are you talking about just grounding or actually relaxing, or?
Oh, true. I'm asking the expert. So is there any, so let me ask you a different question. Do you have any routine that you continuously do to help you with resilience?
I practice body scans a lot, where I actually will, and I don't actually have to practice it so much anymore, because I've done it for so long that it's now more automatic. But when I first started, I would have to consciously like set a reminder or put up a sticky note or something that told me to scan my body, so that I can tell if my jaw is tight, if I'm like clenching my muscles, if I'm constricting something, and that lets me know that something's going on. Like, something is either going on in my mind, or I'm stressed out about something. And then from there, when I'm more in tune with my body and I recognize that I'm clenching my abs, or my shoulders are up towards my ears while I'm washing dishes, I'm like, why am I, what is going on? Then bringing your attention down to your belly. And then as soon as you bring your attention down to your belly, you're automatically breathing more with your belly, because we want to breathe with our belly, particularly your diaphragm. Your diaphragm sits up higher. It's higher. It's not technically like your belly. It's up. It's technically up higher. It's like below your ribs, in the middle there. But I don't think people really need to think about all that or know all that. I think all they need to do is to bring their attention to their belly, and they'll immediately start breathing a little bit more with their belly, because some people breathe up with their chest when they're really stressed out about something, or anxious or angry or whatever it is. And just breathe slow and deep with your belly. You could do this anywhere. You could do this while you wash dishes, shower,
Oh,
while you're getting dressed, putting your shoes on, just bringing your attention to your belly. Did you do it while I was talking?
yeah, I was trying just being more present and putting attention to my belly.
And I
That's
did
why
it.
I'm like, I need to sit straight.
I mean, I'm slouching, and you don't have to even sit straight to do it. I did it a few times during this session because I can talk really fast, and so I had to slow down a few times. The listener is like, wow, how much coffee does she have? But but it really can help you slow down. It can help you ground. It can help you activate your parasympathetic state, especially if you decide to breathe in a little bit more deep and then exhale longer than you inhale. That really can relax you down. So while you're moving through adversity or moving through something challenging, and it's really, if it's anxiety provoking, if it causes irritation, agitation, or anything in between, taking that time to bring your attention to your belly, inhale really slow, and then exhale longer than you inhale. And you only need to do this like a few times.
What would you say is the benefit of doing that? What is after that available that is not available before?
I think that it's easier to problem solve. It's easier to think in general. Your cognitive functioning is just a little bit more efficient when you're not in a fight or flight response. When we're in these low level fight or flight responses, when we're experiencing anxiety or anger or things of that nature, or when you're experiencing high stress, which is different, but I think that we can think more clearly. We can ground our mood, which helps us, which we want to be I think I don't know anybody that like doesn't want to be grounded, right? And it helps us feel better.
And you've mentioned even before that it was one of your goals to feel better. In a way, you wanted to be better, feel better.
Right. And at the time,
yeah.
I had none of these skills at the time to this degree. Like I was already I already knew some things because I started internships and things like that. But I was mostly working with a completely different field. I was working with people who experienced symptoms of schizophrenia. So the things that I did was a lot different than what I do in more a counseling setting. So this kickstarted me learning all of this stuff so I can manage my mood and how I felt and where my mind wandered. And this really contributed to my journey of being studying more CBT, DBT, which is dialectical behavioral therapy, and breathing techniques and mindfulness. And so I wouldn't change what happened at all, because I don't know what type of therapist I would be if I didn't have that head injury. Because it caused me to realize, like, wow, our moods can go kind of all over the place, especially when we're in a high stress situation. And my mind, worrying that my brain wasn't going to work properly anymore, right? These like rogue thoughts. So all of this kind of led me to the career path that I'm on now. But I think the biggest thing that helped me through it with the skills I had at the time was knowing what I wanted and using my resources and natural support system, and also taking the time to just sit in stillness and do nothing and follow my intuition.
You also mentioned gratitude, and even now you kind of displayed it as looking at, no matter how difficult and challenging and painful that experience was, it's actually, I'm grateful for it, in other words, because now it created the person that I'm today.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Have you been always able to look at things and seeing the blessings in them?
No, not at all.
So what happened? What helped you change into that mindset?
Honestly, I think this injury, because before that I was a lot more cynical, and just to put it loosely, I was cranky. I was like a cranky young lady. I was just cranky, and it caused me to be more patient. You got to be more patient. If you're struggling to remember things and you're struggling to I don't know, I would like lock my keys in the car, lock my keys in the house. Like I had like such like spazzy brain, and everything. And eventually it's like, you just gotta be patient and laugh at yourself. So it caused me to have a pretty significant shift in how I showed up in the world, personality wise, which I'm grateful for.
Wow. So it really, you've developed new skill, if we can call patience a skill.
Definitely.
Besides all the other mindfulness skills. And it sounds like humor is also one of your tools in the Resilience Toolbox.
It's been around since I was little.
So that is from your natural strength, that's always been there. So it seems like there's a combination of things that come from your natural personality and your natural strengths, like humor, energy, having a clear vision. Sounds like it's also one of things that's been always with you, passion for life. And then the new things that you've developed, the patience and the mindfulness that kind of balances your drive and passionate personality. Sounds like that it's something that, and the gratitude.
Yes, definitely. And also I want to say to not be afraid of asking for help.
Yeah, that seems to be a theme that some people, most people, majority of people that I talk to, they do have a challenge with asking for help.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. When that happens to anybody, how has it been for you first before we go further? Have you always been open to, no problems asking others for help?
It ebbs and flows. When it comes to emotional support, when I'm feeling sad or really angry or anxious about something, I have no problem with calling a friend or my mom or dad. There's, even though I'm in my 30s, I'm like, you're my parent. Well, talk to me now. Right.
Yeah.
Or just anybody that I look up to or who's a natural support system. So I don't have an issue with that, but I sometimes struggle with like actual like physical things, like moving. Like I moved all by myself with my little Toyota Corolla, and I just like moved all my things in 5 trips, and all my friends were like, why didn't you ask us? And I was just like, I don't know why I didn't ask you. But I think it's because that moving didn't really cause me any stress. I was so excited to move that I didn't even think to ask people. I was like, that's fine, I'll just do it myself. It like wasn't like a super big deal. But I think that if something is really, really challenging to the point where you feel stuck or lost or overwhelmed, that's your signal to use one of your strengths, and just to know that resources include people, right? Or it could be your natural support system, or it could be people who are not natural. So like if the moving thing was stressful, I would have hired movers, right? Or something, or hiring a coach, or hiring a therapist, or and there's also a lot of free things, like meetup.com has like a bunch of free stuff, support groups and things like that, teaching you time management skills or whatever. Books. I go to the library. I don't even like buy books anymore. I'm like, I just go to the library. I'm like, how do I do this? And I find a book, right? So being able to ask for help or get help, but help can look like a lot of different things. It could be Googling things, asking a friend if they know somebody who knows how to do this particular thing, right? I had to do that when I started my private practice. I was like, I don't even know how to collect invoices or how to like do I need a business license? And I just like asked my friends, I'm like, you guys know a business owner? Of course they do, right? Cold calls and things like that also. So really just hitting the ground running with that.
So it sounds like you're unstoppable, that if you don't know it, that's one of your strengths. Another, that if you have the goal, even when you don't know it, you are open, let's just try something. And let's reach out to people and see some,
And I just Google things.
And Google is just the best.
I'm just like, how do you do this? I'm a University of YouTube.
Right. Yep. How did we live 20 years ago?
I know, right?
Without internet and computers and phones.
But I don't want to make it seem like I'm just like this overall like superhero-y person. I am human. I'm not a robot. And I've experienced times where I don't ask for help right away. And eventually I do, but I like torture myself for 3 weeks before I actually ask anybody trying to figure things out. And so, but when we do things like that, when we're like, oh, why did I do it that way? Or whatever the case is, I try to be easy because it already happened. It's already done. There's no point in really dwelling on it. It's just, how can I learn from this? That's a good question, I think.
Yeah. So some of your resiliency tools could be also asking yourself a question that could help you stay present. Sounds like go into present, and also remembering that not to live in the past and the future in our heads.
Right.
What if somebody says, well, but the past was so good before this thing happened. That's the only joy I can ever have in the past, remembering, because there's no future for me when this thing happened, whatever that is.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
If anybody is at that point that is thinking, right, maybe after something happened.
So, I mean, if a person is really in that space where they're really in the past, I think honoring that is where they are at that time is really important. I wouldn't try to pull them out of it unless they want to get out of it. So it's this kind of is highlighted often in the therapy world. People have to want things. The therapist or the person helping or the coach or whoever can't want it for them. So it's like, if they want to be present and they want to move on, then that's when, we can start doing different interventions. But if they have no desire and they want to stay back there, then it's kind of like there must be some reason why they are there.
What I really liked about it is you've mentioned honoring wherever they are. And with some other guests, we talked about shame. So I love the alternative of, maybe the question could be, instead of whenever we catch ourselves shaming ourselves or blaming ourselves and feeling miserable, how could we honor ourselves? What would be some of the questions that would come to mind around how to switch from shame to honor? That would be the switch.
The word that popped up in my head right now is acceptance. And coming back to the phrase radical acceptance, it's like, this is where I am right now, and not judging that. I mean, there's been times where me personally, where I, not with this incident that happened years ago, but where I felt depressed or experiencing anxiety about something. I'm human. Just because I'm a therapist doesn't mean, we're all human.
All of us. Yeah.
And feeling or noticing the automatic thought process of, why are you feeling like this? You're a therapist, get out of this right now, right? Like, you're a role model and all this and that. And then having to really just stop and fully radically accept that this is literally how I feel right now. Like, not literally millennial, literally, but like literally dictionary, literally. I'm a millennial. I can say that. I can say that. But really, like, this is what is going on in my life right now. I truly feel like this in this moment, and accepting that this is what's going on. It doesn't mean that you can't do something about it. Go exercise or drink some water or call a therapist or a friend. Like, you're still allowed to take action with wherever you are, but being able to at least acknowledge that this is what is going on right now without resisting it or trying to push it away or not. Or when I think of like somebody like really not liking something that's going on, that me feels or sounds like resistance. Right. And resistance takes more energy than acceptance.
Oh, so how is that connected to resilience? Acceptance, resistance. So when we switch from resistance to acceptance, it allows us to have more energy for the next step. What would you say?
I think yes. When we're resisting what is, and I resisted the head injury for a little while. For like a full month, I was like mad and resentful and just like, why is this happening to me? And like really personalizing it. And really just angry, like resistance, right?
Yeah.
I got nothing done during that month, probably very little healing too, right? Because I was stressing myself out more by resisting what happened.
Interesting. Yeah. So we add to that pain our own.
Right. But let me highlight though, it's also okay that I did that because that was genuinely what was going on for me at that time. And I'm not, that is just literally
part of the journey.
What happened. I went through a phase of resistance, and that is okay. It really is okay, because we're not going to judge anything, really.
We honor the process, however it looks like for
I like that.
Any of us.
It's a process, right? And so it's okay if people have setbacks, if they fall off wagons, quote unquote, right? Or whatever. If you have a day or a week or a month where you were accepting and you were grounded and you were moving through things and you had your North Star, and then all of a sudden you just completely fall the other direction and we're angry or we're depressed or we're not making moves, and being okay with yourself experiencing life, being human.
Yes. So accepting that the pain and the suffering and the challenges and the faults are part for life of all of us.
That's just what the
human
person is experiencing.
Welcome to humanhood.
Yeah.
I also like your metaphor of waves. Maybe we could close our talk. That's how we met, actually. You've mentioned that, and it was really cool how you mentioned even going through the emotions, like the waves, and just let the wave of the emotion pass. And it reminded me of TED Talk or YouTube Talk of two women who were talking about burnout and how burnout happens when the emotion gets stuck in the body. So it sounds like in your definition, to allow the emotion just pass as the wave, it helps also resilience from long term. Because if somebody is in the stress situation, it could be a small stress adding up, could be possible burnout. What's your perspective on burnout, resilience, and waves?
I think that, burnout, that's like a whole episode.
Another topic.
That's like a whole thing.
Might be on our next elephant project.
But to ride waves, yes, it does allow energy to, like what those women were saying, not get stuck, right? We want to, when I think of energy getting stuck, I think of people pushing down emotions, not letting themselves feel it, right? Or distracting away from it. So distraction can be working more. It could be more negative self-talk. It could be more productivity when you actually need a break. It could be too much distraction, right? Also, people distract by drinking alcohol, playing video games, social media, whatever. Yeah. And so by actually letting yourself feel the emotion, you're letting yourself experience it so that it doesn't just kind of accumulate and pop out later. And also not pop out in other ways, headache, stomachache, aches and pains, right?
So if somebody has a headache, one of the questions could be, instead of just popping a pill, could be what am I suppressing? Is there anything that I'm not feeling?
Or just what's going on? Like, am I stressed right now? Right? Do you have a lot of things on your mind? Are you, I get headaches and I'm like, and I realize my calendar is full and I'm just like, I probably should go for a hike.
So it could be like a bodily alarm system telling us, slow down, look what's happening. Something's happening.
Yeah, the mind and the body are so connected to the point where it's like, to me, it seems like just one big old fluid thing, right? So eloquently put, very, very clinical, right? The fluid thing.
I love it. Well, we are not talking to clinicians here, most of us, the audience, right?
I forgot. I'm like,
perfect. It's perfect.
But you asked me a question and I lost
waves. It was waves. Oh, sorry, wait. I distracted us.
No, it's okay. So, no, I trust me. riding waves, I think, is extremely important. I learned how to ride waves. I learned what waves even were or are in a mindfulness practice for drug cravings
Wow.
workshop or
Huh.
training, I should say.
Yeah.
And so this person, the teacher, was teaching us about mindfulness practice from a DBT perspective, but she was also talking to us about mindful meditation and transcendental meditation, and then how we can take these practices and make them so that they can help people with cravings. So we talked about alcohol cravings, drug cravings, because at the time I was working with a lot of clients that experienced meth and heroin addiction, and alcohol addiction. And then also other cravings like sugar cravings, right? Other things that are not as extreme as, meth. And writing. So it's kind of like imagining if you have a craving for ice cream or sugar or something, but you don't have any of it in the house, right? And you don't want to DoorDash a thing of ice cream and spend like $15 on like a pint or like a little thing of ice cream. And it's raining, you don't want to drive. So you have to just deal with this craving. So it's about actually noticing the feeling in your mouth, your tongue, like you salivating at the thought of it, noticing your stomach growling, even though you just ate, you're actually not hungry, but you just want ice cream, right? Noticing your whole body kind of crave something, but it's a wave. It's not going to last forever. Eventually it goes away. It goes away. It comes up, it swells, it crashes, and then everything evens out. And maybe it will come up again. Maybe it'll even out for like 2 seconds before it comes again, but it really, it's a wave. Right. And so the same thing goes when we experience emotions. If we experience anger about something, you're not angry about that one thing for the rest of your life consistently at level 100. It comes up, it ebbs, or not, I shouldn't say ebb, it swells, and then it crashes, and then it flattens. Right. And so being able to connect with your breath, feel your heart beating faster, feel your skin getting hot, right? Feel yourself, whatever physiological feelings you're experiencing, noticing your body, experiencing whatever it is, bring your attention to breath. And then you're really going to intentionally pay attention to where you feel the discomfort in your body, and includes noticing the discomfort in the mind as well. And then continuously bringing yourself back to breath.
It sounds like riding the wave is bringing a hope that it will decrease and that it will leave the body. So there's not going to be like any physical challenges after. Versus I'm looking, what is the strategy? So riding the wave versus getting a distraction.
Right. And also riding the wave, you have to be present to do that. All right. I don't know why I decided today to stop saying have to. It helps if you're present. No, you have to be present to do that. Because very often we experience more emotional discomfort based on what our thoughts are doing, where our mind is. Is our mind in the future? What exactly are we thinking? What are we imagining? What are we saying to ourselves, right? And so if any of this content is stressful, the body is going to react to that stress, because the body has a hard time differentiating between what we're imagining, what we're thinking, what's actually going on. The body is just going to constantly respond to the mind. And so when you experience that wave, bringing your attention back to present can help alleviate some of that future, I like to call it future tripping.
I love it.
Right. Or if we are in the past and we're really like reliving that in our mind, we want to bring ourselves back. You're still allowed to obviously think about the future in the past, right? But it's more or less being consciously aware that you are doing that. So riding the wave, by bringing your attention to breath and attention to body, and then noticing yourself experiencing an emotional discomfort, a mind discomfort, a craving, whatever it is, you're present. We want to be here now.
And then it reduces the craving or the emotional intensity of, let's say, grief or pain, anger.
Yes. Yes, it helps you move through it. So it doesn't make it go away. So that's something my clients often were like, oh, cool. It'll like make me feel better. I'm like, it doesn't always make you feel better because you actually notice the feeling more, right? But it helps you not distract away or stuff it down or let it, think about like a wave. Like, have you ever been to the beach body surfing? And so you don't have a boogie board, you don't have a surfboard, it's just your body. So your back is to the ocean, you're facing the shore, and then the wave comes and picks you up, right? It just picks you up, and then you just like la-di-da, and you ride the wave all the way to the shore. I'm from Monterey Bay, for anybody who knows Monterey. So I used to always be at the wharf growing up. And my clothes, like not even a swimsuit, because we were just like beach kids, just running with your clothes and riding the waves. Now, what happens if the wave comes and we tense up and we try to resist the wave? Like, nope, I don't even like the wave. I don't want the wave, or it's too overwhelming and daunting, this wave, right? It crashes over us. And now we have a face full of water, right? And we're disoriented. Eventually you get to shore, right? You get it together and you swim to shore or take to shore, right? But it's a lot easier to notice this scary wave coming and accept that it is coming instead of trying to resist the wave and make the wave go away or curse the wave as it's coming. Like, no, right? It's easier to accept that this wave is now very inconvenient. I don't really want to ride this wave anymore. I changed my mind, but here we are, kind of thing. And kind of like relax into it. Bring attention to breath. You have to relax your muscles, right? In order to ride the wave. If you tense up, it's just gonna push.
That comes back to noticing the body.
Right, exactly. And then just allowing that wave to kind of take you to shore, trusting that you will get to shore. You're not going to be stuck with the wave forever. You will get to shore.
So the trust is part of the process in a way, or the resiliency toolkit. Would you say trust is there, or hope?
And your breath is what's going to keep you grounded and anchored and almost like a self-soothing tool as you ride the wave.
It sounds like really using the body or having the help of the body to anchor ourselves or ride the wave better.
I think it would be more or less the help of your ability to notice the body. So it's noticing. It's observing the body. So it's noticing your heart, your muscles, your breathing, noticing.
So maybe somebody who is just watching now can notice what are your thoughts when you are listening to us and watching, and maybe judging our interruptions before on my accent. What's happening? Thank you. What's happening in your body? And just observing. Are you tense? Are you relaxed? Are you worried?
Right. And so I can just say it right now for the listeners, for them to just notice their feet wherever they are. And if they're sitting in a chair, just notice your booty in the chair, right? If you're sitting on a couch, just notice what the couch feels like against your body. Notice your belly moving, right? Notice if your jaw is tight, relax your jaw, relax your tongue, relax your shoulders, and just notice what it sounds like to hear me talking if they're with their headphones on, just hearing my voice, right? If they're looking at this, they see you nodding, right? They probably might be like, and they might be making a weird face. So just notice your brow scrunch up if that's what happened or whatever the case is. And it's just really noticing yourself.
Well, thank you for a quick tour through, in a way, a quick mindfulness exercise right here.
All of 10 seconds.
Right.
And that's how fast you could do it. I ride waves all the time, all day, every day I'm riding waves.
I love it. So resilient through riding waves.
Asking yourself questions about questioning your own thoughts politely, politely questioning, like, is this the only way I can look at this? It's more like questioning your perspectives.
Oh, okay.
Right? Shifting your perspective, knowing what it is that you want, whether it's an actual goal or a feeling, right? And then using your resources, your natural support system, and other strengths like your competencies or your capabilities. And you highlighted, my humor, right? So somebody else might have like excellent organization skills, or they might have an excellent like network of people
And
right?
if they don't know, maybe they can ask somebody, what
Yeah,
do you think is my
brainstorm.
strength? Yeah.
Brainstorm with
Reach
people.
out for help. Fantastic. Thank you. It was in a way our beautiful wrap up. Anything else that you would like to add?
No. I mean, if you want, if my energy didn't freak anybody out, come to my podcast. It's just this bunch of this.
Yeah, I'll post the link under our video. Thank you so much for saying yes and for sharing your perspective and your wisdom and experience. Appreciate it.